So what's up, y'all? Welcome. Happy people. So today, we are bringing you another episode of the Sistas in Crime with Shy and Toy podcast. I'm Shy.
And I'm Toy.
All right, y'all. And we are coming to you with another episode of our podcast. Be sure to tune in every Thursday around 1 p.m. We we upload, because trust me, I do not be up at 1 a.m.
Mm-mm.
Uh, we upload our podcast to YouTube, Sisters in Crime with Shy and Toy, our YouTube channel, and we also upload to Spotify as well. So
Yes.
every Thursday at right between 1 and 2, we upload our episodes. So please tune in. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, below in every video, we have attached our email so you can send us potential cases you want us to discuss in the future. If you have any questions or anything you would like to see on the podcast, please feel free to write us on our email at SistasinCrimewithShiandToy@gmail.com. So today we are getting into a notorious killer. I mean, a maniac.
Honey.
I mean, I think that's the best way to describe him, like a psychomaniac, just a mean man. Donald Henry PeeWee Gaskins. So we're gonna get into him, and not many people know. Some may know, and then some may not know. But this is another South Carolina serial killer.
Yeah.
Very, very disturbing individual. So we do every week. We get into the history of the person, like their background, early life and childhood, to cover just the beginning of this whole case, so we can paint a picture and how this individual, because I'm convinced that a lot of his upbringing is the reason why he was the way he was as he got
Absolutely.
older. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna do a brief just overview, and like I said, always, y'all, we do the cases on the podcast, but please go back and research if you want to look up like in-depth information, because we can only cover so much within this 45 minutes to an hour that we do every
Right.
week, and we can't even cover every murder, every circumstance that happened with this case. So please feel free to look up all the information. There are several documentaries, podcasts,
Movies,
articles,
shows.
shows about this man. Okay. So forgive us for not getting into because if we got into every little aspect of this man, we would be here all night. Right.
All night. And we got lives too.
Right. And we got lives. I want to go to bed. I did work today. I want to go to
I
bed.
gotta work
So,
tomorrow.
right.
So
But we're going to do our best to deliver a great episode to y'all. This case is very interesting. Like I said, straight out of South Carolina. So first, let's start with his childhood.
real
Pee-wee
quick,
Gaskins. Uh-huh.
I just want to throw in trigger warning. We're going to be
Yes.
talking
Thank you.
about some very uncomfortable topics. Viewer discretion advised. If you're under the age of 13, you don't need to be listening no way. Over the age
Yep.
of 13, still trigger warning, because some of the things we researched
Yes.
even bothered me, and I'm 33 and
Yes.
I love true crime. So
Yes.
go ahead and exit now, because
Yes.
I don't want to hear it in the comments. Go ahead and exit
Yes.
now if you can't
Please.
process or handle that. Okay, go ahead, Shy.
Yes. Yes. And definitely, me and Toya have discussed we are going to do some lighter things in the future, because I understand all this murder, even for me, is a lot, especially with this man, because
Mm-hmm.
I even, because we spent a couple days going over the case, and I was like I was having trouble sleeping a little bit, and this man has been
Yeah.
deceased for years at this point. But I'm just going to start off with the background. So his name was Donald Henry PeeWee Gaskins. So over the course of his life, he acquired several nicknames, one being Pee-wee. And he was named Pee-wee because of his size. He was 5'4". But y'all, people underestimated this man a lot because of his size, because he was only 5'4".
Mm.
He also earned the nickname the meanest man in America, just because of the crimes and just his reasoning for committing these murders, crimes. Also, towards the end of his life, when he was executed, I'm not trying to give away too much, but he was executed. But when he was executed, they nicknamed him the Devil's Son. They had several individuals who tried to steal his body, so that they can worship it. Now, I'm not going to get into those people who wanted to steal his body, but you know the type of people that probably wanted to steal his body, okay?
I know.
So PeeWee, they say, suffered from like short man syndrome because he was so small, but he was bullied a lot. From the time he was a child on up, he was bullied a whole lot because of his size. He was short and he was very small. PeeWee grew up in a single parent household. He lived with his mother and his siblings. PeeWee, well, they reported that his mother used to invite men in and out of the house, and they would bully him. The men that she invited, they would bully him, and he, just really went through a lot in his childhood. Mom knew of the bullying. Allegedly, she knew. She didn't do anything about it. She didn't stop the men at all, and that really made him act out, misbehave. He wouldn't listen. He would get like beatings from men and different things. So he ended up meeting, I believe, around the age 11 or
Mm-hmm.
maybe 13. He ended up meeting two other boys. I forgot their names. I'm not going to list their names because, like I said, it's a lot. He ended up meeting two other boys that he grew up with, and they were named the Trouble Trio. So this whole Trouble Trio went around the town. I mean, they picked up sex workers. And like I said, y'all, 11 and 13, like young kids, picking up sex workers, burglarizing homes, assaulting people. Y'all, okay, trigger warning for this. They even raped one of the trio's little sisters. Okay.
Marsh.
Yes, Marsh's little sister. And the father caught them. Thank God they caught them, and he caught them, and he just tied the boys up, didn't do anything but tie them up, beat them, and he let them go. He didn't call the cops or anything for her, like none of that. And that part really disgusted me because I said, I know they're young boys, but they should be accountable. They raped a young girl, and
Definitely should
that's his
be.
sister,
And
y'all.
one of the boys, his father, Danny's father, took him away.
Yes.
So he was like, so it was Marsh and PeeWee that were beat very severely, so bad to like when they let them down, they had to lay on the ground for hours before they could even stand up.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm just trying to process, how do you do that to your own sister though? Like,
Yeah. Like,
where's
where
the
are
thought
you at
process
mentally?
there?
Right.
But
Right. Just disgusting.
but we gonna carry on. Okay.
Yeah. So after that, I mean, of course, I mean, PeeWee, he wrote a whole memoir, and he just always from a young age was like just obsessed with committing crimes, from assault to burglarizing homes to assaulting, like he just loved crime. So after still at the age of 13, he was breaking into a house, and he actually assaulted a young girl. He hit her. She was in the house, and he hit her. All right, he assaulted her. So that led him to go to South Carolina's Reform School for Boys. And it was reported that he was raped, gang raped in that school by 20 students that were there. Okay. And, I have questions about that too, because apparently this happened in the shower. So where are your staff in this reform school? Like, where's your teachers?
Yeah.
Where are all these people? And I understand he
Right.
was there to, serve a sentence or whatever, but like, where are all these people? Like, who
Exactly.
are supposed to be watching out for them, right? Whatever. Okay. But um he ended up getting under the protection of the boss boy of the reform school in exchange for sex. So he, had sex with the boss boy, and he protected him. So it was reported that he escaped a few times, even got married at the age of 30, like at a young age, like just so much stuff, right?
Hmm.
So it was reported that that he was always fantasizing about crime. Anytime he was like in the reform school, he was just like thinking like kind of going through withdrawals. Like, I must, commit a crime. Like it was like he was thirsty for it. Like I gotta do this and stuff until like his yearning to commit crime kind of developed into a yearning to kill. So, which serial killers do that. They start off with like assault and like sexual assault, burglarizing, and then they do a lot of them do elevate because their thirst is no longer met. They want to go on to commit more crime, like murders and more serious things. So, okay, Toya. So next we're gonna get into, now that you kind of got a picture of PeeWee Gaskins. Next we're gonna get into like some of the murders that he committed and um, just different things. Like I said, we can't cover them all because allegedly he admitted to 80 to 90 killings. That he said he buried the bodies from like the coast of South Carolina, North Carolina on into Florida,
Sis,
but they weren't able to verify that though.
sis, it was upwards of 115, boo.
Yeah, I thought I saw 80 to 90, but
A
I'm not
hundred
surprised.
and fifteen. And you
I'm
know
not
what? I'm not surprised either.
surprised.
But we gonna get into that.
Yeah,
We not gonna get into those.
yeah,
We just gonna keep it rolling because I don't
right,
want to give away nothing too soon.
right.
So as Sha said, Pee Wee just developed this yearning. He started out from burglaries and little petty crimes as a teenager to escalating to murder. So, from a psychological standpoint, I am not a psychologist, but from a psychological standpoint, being that he suffered neglect and severe abuse in childhood, a lot of times they say, what's the saying, how it goes? Like like you kind of become your perpetrator. And
Yes.
he was in and out of jail a lot, starting like Sha said from the age of 13. And each
Mm-hmm.
time, because he's so little, he was only like a buck 30, like 130 pounds, little
Mm-hmm.
5 foot short man. Each time he was being raped repeatedly when he's in and out of prison, from the time he was a teenager, even
Mm-hmm.
going into his adult years.
Mm-hmm.
So this did not stop until, he got in his mind like he's going to have to command and demand respect.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one instance in 1953 when Pee Wee attacked a teenage girl with a hammer. So allegedly, he's working on this tobacco plantation. He alleges, now much about what's known about Pee Wee and his early life is from his point of view. He likes to embellish the facts. So allegedly, on a lot of the stuff, allegedly, he was working for these guys who own the tobacco plantation, and they
Mm-hmm.
had an agreement with him where they would pay him and another gentleman to basically burn down their plantations. They would take the tobacco, hide the tobacco, burn down the plantation. They would claim insurance money. So one of the guys, his daughter, was kind of taunting Pee Wee, and I'm like, she must not know who she was dealing with. So she was kind of taunting Pee Wee. They was calling him, her and another friend was calling him short and this, that, and the third. And he lost it because, like I said, he's been taunted the majority of his life because of his stature and how small he is. And people assume quite naturally that he's an easy target, and he ain't the one to be played with.
Very
So
underestimated.
very underestimated, right? I think it's
Mm-hmm.
like that Napoleon syndrome.
Yeah.
So he ended up hitting the girl over the head with a hammer. Now, prayerfully, thankfully, she did not die. She had a fractured skull. So because of that, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison at the South Carolina Penitentiary. Now, during this time period, while he's in prison, they go to bullying starting again. They
Mm-hmm.
go to rape, this, that, and the third. However, there was one guy who was like most feared in the entire prison, and his name was Hazel Brazel. So Pee Wee gets in his mind, in order for him to demand and command respect, he gonna have to take out Hazel. So he befriends Hazel, kind of warms up to him so he can get Hazel to kind of let his guard down, and then he, killed him. And
Mm-hmm.
he tried to claim self defense. So for that, Pee Wee was only given 3 additional years for involuntary manslaughter. Now, I didn't look up and see what Hazel had done. However, none of the authorities, no one in South Carolina cared that Pee Wee took out Hazel because apparently he was a menace as well. So that's why he only got an additional 3 years and they only charged him for manslaughter because it was kind of like, hey, you doing us a favor. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that led him to become even more aggressive. Like at this point, he's getting off on what he's doing. So Sha mentioned he escaped prison several times.
Mhm.
Um, each time he will be rearrested, put back in custody.
Mhm.
Um, now, again, trigger warning because we about to get into some
Heavy stuff.
heavy topics. Okay,
Yes.
so he was arrested after 2 years after he was paroled. He was paroled in August of 1961. 2 years later, he was arrested for the rape of a 12-year-old girl. Now, the way they tell this story is he was friends with the girl's parents. He kind of preyed upon her to where he would watch and see when the parents would be there, when she would be there by herself. She was there by herself, and he convinced her to let him in the house. Once inside the house, he sexually assaulted her. Her aunts just so happened to come home to the house, and he panicked, grabbed the girl, ran out the back window. The aunts immediately called police. They suspected him because Pee Wee is a known menace, so they suspected him. And
Mhm.
when they went to his home, the girl was in an armoire. He made her hide in the armoire and be quiet. So he did that to that baby. But while he was awaiting sentencing, y'all, the police uncuffed him. And as soon as they uncuffed him, this man immediately took off and jumped out of a two-story window.
Mhm.
Just didn't even know what was below. Just by the grace of God, the man fell into some hedges, but he dived out the window because he little, he could fit through the window.
He was small. That's my
He
thing.
was
He was small.
small, but you
Yeah.
don't even know if it's just cement, concrete. That's how, like, he not here, y'all. He not
Yeah.
here.
Right.
So he fell into some hedges, luckily, and then just took off. So
Yes.
he evaded that sentencing. However, 8 years later, he was rearrested in Georgia and
Mhm.
sentenced to 8 years. He paroled in November of 1968, and at that time, he then moved to Sumter, South Carolina. So now we get into some more heavy stuff. So, like we said, he claims much of what is known about his early life in these murders is from Pee Wee's point of view. He claims to have killed upwards of 110 people.
Mhm.
The majority of those, he said, happened while he was driving along the coast. He would pick up hitchhikers, men and women, and then he just got off like it was a thrill of torturing them, and he would imagine new ways to kill them and stuff like that. They haven't been able to verify all his victims, he claims, because
Mhm.
he didn't really take note of their names, didn't really save a lot of personal IDs or anything like
Mhm.
that. So, and he was kind of inconsistent on some of the things he said. However, he did say that his primary method of killing would be stabbing, suffocation, mutilation, and he even claims to have indulged in cannibalism.
Mhm.
I don't know how true that is, but
Mhm.
allegedly for educational purposes only.
Yeah.
And he said that he ended up committing these killings about every 6 weeks. But like we said, we can't possibly go into all that. We can't unpack all that in tonight's episode. So what we're gonna do is go through the 15 that we know of. So I've already mentioned one. That's the guy in prison, the Hazel Brazil. So that
Mhm.
was one. Now in 1970, this man ain't have no restrictions, no, like, he didn't care who you was. So in 1970, he killed his 15-year-old niece and her friend. The niece's name was Janice Kirby, and her 17-year-old friend Patricia Ann Osbrook. He basically beat them to death and tried to sexually assault them. The first he tried this on two separate occasions. So the way the story is told, we're not gonna get too detailed, but the way the story is told is that, Janice had a good relationship with PeeWee. She was in the car with some of her friends, and they were riding by, saw him, and they stopped him. He noticed that something was wrong with Janice, and her friends told him that she got a little drunk. She just needs some time to sober up before she goes home to her parents. So PeeWee takes Janice, and then the friend Patricia, who was sober, hopped in the car with him. Now, as soon as they got to his home, he allegedly tried to sexually assault them. The girls, Patricia, they both fought back. Patricia was able to hit him over the head with a 2x4, and then it knocked him out for a couple minutes, long enough for them to get out of the house and run down the street toward town. But they weren't fast enough. So when he came to, he hopped in his vehicle, drove after them, caught them, put them in his car, kind of knocked them out, and then he tried to essay them again when they came to. They fought him off again. He was like he can't take the risk of them escaping again, so he just beat them to death and buried them. So
Mhm.
that's we're up to three. We have three now,
Yeah.
and it's
Yes.
just 1970.
So
So we 1971. Do you want to take that, Shy?
yeah. So in 1971, it was claimed he had claims that he poisoned a lady named Martha Ann Dix, also named as Clyde. She was age 20. This was around March of 1971, because it was rumored that he was fathering her unborn child. She was pregnant. Um, so the messed up thing about this is it was rumored that she did, even though I think she was dealing with PeeWee at the time, she was messing around with women and men, and that enraged him. And
Mm-hmm.
you will see a lot of these cases is he was very PeeWee. I can it's safe to say he was very racist, like
Yes,
overly racist.
yes,
So that
and
was
had
a
very bad anger issues.
yeah, very bad anger issues. So that's what really uh, caused a lot of these murders to happen. This is what forced him to do this. His rage and his racism, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so he poisoned her because she was messing with men and women. So it was out of revenge. Um, Apparently, she was messing with like an alleged drug dealer who supplied the drug. Okay, we're going back to 1970, y'all. So I don't want to confuse
Yeah,
anybody. So
it was only a
apparently,
couple months apart though, so
right,
it was from
right.
November to March.
To March. So it was another year, but only a couple months. All right. So apparently, Martha Clyde was messing with the drug dealer that supplied his niece and her friend that he killed a couple months before, had supplied them with drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made him mad and made him murder Clyde, along with the fact that she was allegedly bisexual, right?
And
Um,
possibly pregnant with his baby.
and pregnant with his child. Right. So that lets you know the type of man he was. He didn't even care that she was possibly pregnant with his child. He just was like, all right, I'm mad at this. I'm going to take her out. This is the type of man we're dealing with here.
Honey, I know he didn't care when he took out his niece.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. Okay, you got a point. Lord Farquaad didn't care. All
He
right.
did not care.
Right. Just shame on you, PeeWee. Anyway. so, um, so apparently she was supposed to get married to a woman and go to Texas,
Mm-hmm.
but that never happened because unfortunately, trigger warning, they found her body and her bones in a ditch. And they gave it to a university or something like that. That's a whole shady
Yeah.
thing. They gave it to
Like,
a university and it was lost. And I'm like, what is that about?
how y'all be losing bones and evidence? Like, I
Right.
hear a lot of that in these true crime
Yeah.
cases. Oh, such and
Yeah.
such was lost. And I'm like, how was you keeping track of this stuff? Like, what happened?
Right.
Unless it was a natural disaster, somebody got some explaining to do.
Right. Because how do you lose the bones? And why are they going to they were going to a university for studying? Like I don't know if it was like I don't understand that, and I didn't find a lot on that because, like I said, we'd be here all day, right? But
Right.
I did want to know like how that even happened.
I don't know if it's one of those things where, medical students use cadavers to kind of
Right.
like, or something like that. But why would you use an actual crime victim? Why not use, somebody who donates their body to science? Unless donating your body to science wasn't an option at this time. I don't know when that came about.
Mhm.
But that was so strange. I was like, lost her bones. Like, if I was
Mhm.
her family, I would be
Live
pissed.
it. Live it. Yeah. Yeah.
So now we're gonna get into 1973. So at least he did give it a 2 year break. We're gonna get into 1973,
Right.
and we have this is severe trigger warning,
This part is very heavy, y'all. Like even for
very
me,
heavy.
like I promise y'all, like I was reading up on this, and this part I was like, I don't know if I can. I love like crime and murder mystery. Like I said, we like to learn about it and be on top of cases, but I don't commit crime. But
I don't
this
either.
part right here, this part right here, y'all,
It broke
like
me.
I was like, you disgusting individual.
It broke me, y'all. So like, and we listen to so much true crime. I don't know about y'all, but I have to take a break every now and
Yes,
then and
yes,
listen or watch something uplifting.
yeah,
Like, my go to usually be Shrek. Any
yeah.
one of them, you know what I mean? Just childish stuff.
Mine is the clumps, so
Yeah,
one and two.
that's
So
my go to. Like when I need to
yeah,
feel upbeat, I was like, oh, I'm
yeah,
watch Shrek. Do the
yeah,
roar, but
yeah. With Lord Farquhar.
So, okay, again, trigger warning, very heavy
Hmm.
topic. So in
Yeah.
1973, um, there was a lady by the name of Doreen Hope Dempsey. She was 22, and she had a daughter, Robin Michelle Dempsey, who was 2. Now, remember how we said that Pee Wee was a raging racist? Okay, so there's a couple accounts of this story.
Hmm.
So allegedly, his wife at the time, I don't know which one, because Pee Wee had about 6 wives, and he was married to a lot of them at the same time.
Yes.
So apparently Doreen came over because she needed a place to stay,
Hmm.
and Pee Wee was at the home with his wife. Pee Wee told her that, he didn't have the room for them to stay there. But when the lady, he walked her outside and told her, hey, come with me because I do have a trailer and I'll let you and your daughter stay there. The lady, Doreen, was 7 months pregnant and then she had her 2 year old. He's like, I'll let you and your daughter stay there and you can just pay me in sexual favors. Just don't tell my wife. So Doreen was down. They followed Pee Wee. Well, actually, got in the car with Pee Wee to go to this alleged place where, he had the trailer that he told her about. That was not the case. So supposedly, Pee Wee, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on this because it is very, very triggering, even triggered me. But apparently, Doreen liked black men. So she was pregnant by an African American man. And I think the first child, Robin, who was 2, her father was African American. So he didn't like that. So he actually drowned both of them in a pond and buried them in his backyard.
Hmm. So one thing I want to note, right? So okay, I think it was pretty apparent that the 2 year old that was already here was biracial. I think that was very
Hmm.
apparent. But
Yes.
the unborn child, that was a rumor. The baby wasn't born yet, so it wasn't
He
even
didn't know
factual
that.
that he didn't even care. He just like, all right, well, she basically okay, she like black men. I hate black people basically, and I'm gonna kill. Like he didn't even know in like the baby's race in the stomach, like in her stomach. He just was
Yeah,
like, I'm just gonna like just evil, like just a
honey.
miserable human being.
And we're up to 6 victims at this point.
Yes,
6 known victims. Remember, he claimed
yes,
115. We only know about 15.
right.
So I'll let you take the next one, Shy. 1974.
All right. So in 1974, and I want to also make this known, a lot of the victims that he killed or assaulted, he befriended them first,
Mhm.
right? So he used that as an opportunity to get really close to them. And of course, they thinking this is my friend. He would never, they didn't know what he was capable of. Because, like I said,
Yeah.
5'4", short man syndrome,
He don't appear to be
given
a threat
very
to
much,
nobody.
right? Given very much Lord Farquaad. They
Mhm.
underestimated him a lot. So, in this case, in 74, this is in June of 74, he shot his friend and one of his criminal associates who helped him do things like dispose of vehicles after he killed people, because he killed many hitchhikers and stuff like that, and people that were, like, I guess, stranded on the road and stuff. He stole their cars or whatever. Um, Johnny Sellers, he was 36. He shot him in the back of the head. Sorry, y'all, trigger warning. I should have gave y'all that. He actually stabbed his Johnny's ex-girlfriend, Jessie Ruth Judy, who was age 22, after Sellers asked for money he was owed on the sale of a stolen boat. So that's PeeWee back in the day started a business, and like I said, that's much of, like, a lot of stuff we're skipping over, but
Yeah.
he had a criminal business that he started with a lot of people.
Yes.
Especially, I believe, the individuals we're going to talk about next, I believe.
Mhm.
But he started like this criminal ring where he would steal stuff because he was burglarizing homes and taking possessions, and he would resell it. So he killed, basically, this was like his business partner, like his associate. He just killed him because
Can't
he
even
asked
be
for
in
his
business
money.
with him. Can't be a
Right.
criminal
He
with
did
him.
business.
Like,
He didn't care.
now we up to 8 victims.
Yeah. And I'm mad we have to keep count like this.
I need to keep y'all with us though. We're at 8 because it's
Right.
crazy enough that you did one,
Right.
but for you to take 7 more,
Right.
Napoleon
Right.
complex.
Right.
So now we're getting into 1975, and Pee Wee was a busy man in
Right.
1975.
Like, he was feeling himself at this point, and I want y'all to understand this part, because I think it's safe to insert this part at this time. Pee Wee was so crazy, right? His vehicle, out of all the vehicles you could have chosen for your life, sir, you chose a hearse to cruise in. Now, and he kind of flaunted it in people's face. He
Yeah,
said, "I drive a hearse, and he said, I haul dead bodies." And people
yeah,
thought, "Oh, he's crazy. He's weird." They dismissed him. For all those years, they dismissed him, and, like,
yeah.
he said, "I haul bodies." He had a sign, I believe, on the back of the
On
hearse
it,
that said, "I haul bodies," and he
I
bragged
think it
about
said
having
like dead or alive too.
dead or alive, right? And
Like he beginning to get sloppy, y'all. That's what we
yes,
want you to see.
right.
He beginning to
And
get a
I
little sloppy
blame
and cocky.
Right. I blame the fact that he was very short. That's one reason, and I also blame the
Mhm.
time period. I don't
Yeah,
think he would have
yeah.
gotten away with something like this around this time period.
Now,
Right
absolutely
now,
not, because everybody got their phones out, everything going on
yep,
social media. He would have
right,
been caught after the first one.
absolutely,
But cause
absolutely.
he's so now he's getting so careless, and y'all, he when people would ask him about why he drives a hearse, he would tell them, "Oh, cause I kill a lot of people, and I
Mhm.
need room to transport them."
Yep, they
People ain't take him
dismissed.
serious.
No, they just dismissed him as crazy Pee Wee.
It's
Like,
not
oh,
funny, but like he admitting to it, and
yep,
people not taking him serious because they just
yep,
like, y'all, you can't just judge a book by its cover just because
yep,
he looked like, he ain't gonna do nothing, this, that, and the third. No, this man was a menace to
yeah.
society. So
Very scary individual.
I'm scared, and he been dead.
He been
Okay,
dead.
like
Yeah, but
that's the boogeyman. Like,
yeah,
no.
yeah,
So, like I said, 1975 was a very busy year for Pee Wee. He started off. So now Pee Wee's not just murdering for fun. Now he's getting into a little murder for hire. So he
yes.
becomes a hitman.
He in his bag.
He in his bed, like, but in the worst way.
Right,
In the
right,
worst way.
right.
So there's a man by the name of Silas Barnwell Yates. We're not gonna spend a whole lot of time on these because, like I said, it's a lot with Pee Wee. But anyway, Silas
Mm.
Barnwell Yates, 45, um, basically hired Pee Wee. No, I'm sorry, his ex girlfriend Suzanne Kipper Owens and her husband John Owens hired Pee-wee to kill Mr. Silas Barnwell Gates, who was 45. They paid Pee-wee $1,500 to kill this man. Pee-wee didn't have no qualms with the man, no relation, no nothing, no beef with him. He just got paid $1,500 and he went and slit his throat.
He was like, "All right, 1,500. All right, bet, go."
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna cost a little bit more than that. But I guess we also have we have to consider the time that we're in. Like $1,500 back then probably would have got you
It's
long.
stretched.
You know what I
It
mean? It's
definitely
stretched.
stretched. Yeah.
And we're gonna get into, well, it's like I said, he was busy in 1975. So me and Sha, we just gonna alternate these. So Sha, I'll let you do the next one, then we just go from there.
Okay. So next we have, unfortunately, Miss Diane Bellamy Neely. She was age 25 at the time. She was separated from her husband, who was again one of Pee-wee's closest friends and criminal conspirator or whatever. It says on April 10th, 1975, Gaskins stabbed Diane, right? And shot Avery Leroy Howard. He was age 34. Among reasons like, I think because Diane, he murdered Diane because she threatened to call the police to report him for having sex with underage girls. That
Hmm.
was it. He
Yeah.
was like, okay, of course I gotta take her out because I'm gonna go, because he was gonna go back to prison, right?
Yeah. And he was
Um,
not for that.
no, he was not for that. Even though he was like the top dog, he had earned his place as top dog in the prison system.
Hmm.
He didn't want to go back there. Of course, I mean,
Hmm.
he wanted to continue to live a free life and, rip and run and kill and murder people.
Right.
All right. So Avery Howard was murdered because he asked for money to pay attorneys and criminal fees, because, like I said, that's his, criminal buddy who was doing work with him and stealing and robbing with him. So I guess he got arrested and ran into some issues. So he wanted money to assist with his legal fees because he was arrested for fraud and auto theft. So
Hmm.
he was like, well, I got to take him out because I'm worried he's going to tell the police about the extent, my extensive criminal activity. So he took
Right.
him out. Like, he didn't care. Like, he was like, everybody got to go, basically.
Exactly. Knocking them off one by one.
Yes.
And next victim we get into is 13 years old. He did not, like we said, didn't discriminate against age or none of that. Her name was Kim Gelkin. He stabbed her to death, allegedly to keep her from telling the police that he had moved her from North Charleston without permission, and then allowed several men, including himself, to sexually abuse her.
Mm-hmm.
So he stabbed her to death. Like I said, real busy in 1975, and we still not done. So he also had Dennis Bellamy, who was 27, and John Henry Knight, who was 15. They were half brothers, but they were the brothers of Diane Bellamy. Remember, that was another one of his victims that was killed along with her boyfriend Avery that Shaw just talked about. So basically, he killed them because he had promised them to pay for some stolen guns. So
Mm-hmm.
Dennis confronts Pee-wee. Pee-wee's like, let me, go get such and such out the woods, led him to the woods, and once they were there, he shot him in the back of his head. Now, meanwhile, John Henry is on the way thinking he's meeting up with his brother. Pee-wee again leads him into the woods, shoots him in the back of the head. So these are again co-conspirators, people that he was working his criminal enterprise with for various reasons. This one was involving stolen guns. He taking everybody out. He don't discriminate.
Mm-hmm.
He don't discriminate. Well, he do discriminate because he hate us. But I'm saying when he's taking people out, man, woman, boy, girl, white, black, Mexican, Asian, rainbow coalition in here, he don't care. Okay, ain't nobody special. If he taking out family, I know he take me out. So now we're gonna get into, so now I think we're up to 14.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
now his last murder actually happened. And it may be jumping ahead a little bit, but since we're doing all the murders, it happened while he was in jail for the final arrest in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
So, Shall, I'll let you do that one.
Okay. All right. So, y'all, like I said earlier, I believe. So Pee-wee bet not beg. He ain't beg now. He wasn't begging now.
Nobody.
He was just taken, okay?
Yeah.
Um, so he bragged. That's what I was trying to say. He bragged about having a little private cemetery of his all his victims, and then once again shrugged his shoulders, brushed them off. No, it's true. Until, y'all correct me if I'm wrong because I was having trouble figuring out. So I believe once he killed his two last victims, I think it's Dennis and Johnny, and John Wright and John Knight.
Hmm.
He shot them in the same area of this little mini cemetery. I believe it was. I believe these were the two that happened. Right?
Oh yeah, along with his friend. His friend was there.
Yes.
Um, what was the guy's name?
Hmm.
You know what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I forgot his name. I can look it up, y'all.
I
I'm
know I
sorry.
got
It's
it.
just so much information and
It's a lot. But I have
yeah,
it over here somewhere.
yeah,
Uh, Neely. Walter Neely.
yes,
That was his friend and another criminal partner. But
yeah,
Neely went on no murder type vibe. Neely was just sticking and
hmm,
robbing. You know what I
yes,
mean? Like
yeah,
he wasn't doing it.
yeah. But like I said, like if Pee Wee felt like, nah, you gonna crack, you ain't solid, you gotta go. Basically, that was his whole thing. So somehow the police, I think Pee Wee just admitted. Did he admit to it that?
No.
Uh huh.
So the way it happened, Walter Neely, like I said, he was not down with no robbing and I mean with no murder. He just stole things.
Right.
So when Walter Neely witnessed Pee Wee kill those last two victims, he was so distressed. He went and confessed to like a priest. And
Right.
the priest encouraged him to go to authorities. So his one of his closest friends, Walter Neely, told authorities, and then authorities. That's when they began to look into Pee Wee.
Yes. Okay. I could not remember. Like I couldn't. It was just so much. I couldn't remember
It's a
how they got
lot.
to. It's a lot. I can't remember how they got to
Hmm.
find the bodies, but I remember I watched several like documentaries, and because there is even a documentary on YouTube, y'all, where his daughter, he confessed a lot to his daughter, and
Hmm.
she was just like distraught, like, Dad, please
Yeah.
don't tell me this. Like it was, I felt bad for her
Yeah,
honestly
because
because I was
they
like,
called her for like a witness.
they
And when
did,
she
they
was
did,
25 at
yeah,
this point, now her daughter's
yeah,
name is Shirley Gaskins.
yeah,
That was by his first wife. Her name was Mary. Much is not known about all these other wives, but I do know Pee Wee had another child, which was a son, and he named him Donald Lee.
yeah,
Not much is known about that woman he had that child with or the other wives because they said that Mary really was the only one he truly loved. The rest of them, he would literally connive these women, manipulate them, brainwash them into marrying him while he's still married to other women
mhm,
just because he wanted to have sex with them. And then
yep,
after a couple months, one of them only lasted 2 weeks. After a
mhm,
couple months or a couple weeks, he just on to the next.
mhm,
But you really gotta
exactly,
marry somebody just to sleep with them, like
mhm,
I mean, but I guess we gotta consider the times because what's crazy is despite how crazy he is, some of these women was like good Christian women and
mhm,
would never like he hid his crimes and things from them and would tell them different stories. He told one of them that he was military, like,
mhm,
just lying to
mhm.
him and I mean they just took him for face value. So
But you know what I feel like a lot of the women he married to have sex with. I'm gonna tell you what I feel like that was in his mind. He's still doing a good thing because it's he thinks that he was. I feel like a lot of these crimes he feel like he was doing the right thing, and I think that was one of the things. Like
and that's
he
crazy
just
how he processes like that.
right. You can justify killing all these people like it's like really
Yeah.
this is justified because, and
They
I think
did
he
this
just
to me, or
right,
they did that to
right,
me, or
yep,
I'm so bad off. I need this money since he was
yep,
doing murder for hire.
right.
It was
Right,
crazy, y'all. It was
right,
crazy.
right. Or like when he killed the lady with the biracial kids, like,
Mhm.
oh, no telling what his thought process was with that. But I can definitely see him being one of those men, like, all right, well, I'm marrying her to have sex, so I'm justified in this because I am marrying
Yeah,
her, to have sex with her. Like, I guess the term honest woman, like I'm making an honest woman.
yeah.
I guess that's the term, but sir, like,
But
get
then
out,
you just leave it by the wayside. And then they was like,
right?
psychologists and things that have studied him and interviewed him were saying that a lot of times he just did it because he was bored. Like
Yeah.
he would get so bored with the everyday routine, day to day life, he get this
Hmm.
urge like he needs to do something. And when he killed somebody, he felt better. Like he
Yep.
said it would build up inside of him like a rage, like he was going to explode at any moment and had to get it out. And he did that
Hmm.
by just
Hmm.
offing
Like a
people.
fix. Like
Yeah, and
like
then
a
he was
fix.
good.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I was
Like
like,
a fix.
but
Yeah, I was.
again, adverse childhood experiences,
Yes. Yes.
all that,
And bullying.
and bullying and rape. He was raped several times
Yeah, and bullying, like
and bullied
by
and abused.
adults, by kids,
Yeah.
like
Several male partners that his mama had. His mama was real indifferent. She didn't even care about him or
yep,
them kids. Like
yep,
there was an account that when he was one, he drank a bottle of kerosene and had convulsions all
yes,
the way to the age of
yes,
3. And the mama
yes,
didn't even,
yeah.
she didn't care.
And it was questioned, like, that was one of the things that's been brought up. Did he commit crimes because he wanted to, or was the brain damage due to the ingestion of the kerosene? Was that a factor in the brain damage, and
Yeah.
is that why he was? It could be, but in reality, um, I think the argument with that was, if you're gonna blame it on his ingestion of kerosene, how do some serial killers who have no traumatic brain, issues, like, how do you justify that when some do it and some don't? You know what I mean? There are
Right,
some serial
right.
killers where there's no known, like, there's no injuries or anything like that. Like, how do you justify that?
Well, with him, it's first of all, there's no way to justify murder in the things
Yes,
that he's doing. But in his
yes,
case, I think it's a combination of these things. All these
yes.
things are working and playing together because you have to keep in mind adolescent childhood, brain development. His brain probably was damaged from not only that, but the repeat neglect, the repeat abuse, the
Hmm.
repeat bullying, the repeat rape. Like, I'm
Hmm.
surprised he didn't disassociate. That's what
Yes.
I was looking to see. I was like, talk of his disorders, but mental health was not a big thing during this time
Mm-mm.
frame. So, but
Mm-mm.
yeah, he had a couple disorders. Like, I
Yes.
feel like he had some comorbidity, and a couple things were playing together all at the same time, because it's like
Hmm.
his rationalization of right and wrong is
Hmm. Hmm.
completely
Right.
on the other end compared to what normal people like you and
Right.
I, who don't do
Right.
murder. I don't know how
Right.
many times we gotta tell y'all that. Don't do
Right.
murder.
Do not kill nobody, y'all.
Don't kill nobody, baby. Just
Don't do that.
but anyway, like his thought process and rationalizations is completely offset,
Yes.
completely out of whack.
Yes.
So we get into his
Like
arrest.
his last one. Hmm.
And the last one. So Walter Neely, like we said, confessed, told the police. Police went to his property where they found 8 bodies. So he really did have like a little graveyard on his property.
Yes.
And they spanned over a span of 5 years. His killings were most prolific in the 70s. Now he started a little bit before then with the guy he had to take out. What was his name? Hazel. But they were primarily spanning between 1970 to 1975. So he was convicted on 8 counts of murder and given on May  24th, 1976. He was found guilty um, and sentenced to death. Now, the other thing is that Wayne, which was, well, I mean, Walter Neely, which I thought was kind of messed up. He didn't work out a plea deal, a plea arrangement, or anything with authorities when he went and confessed everything. So he was basically charged with being what is it? A
An accessory.
an accessory to the murders of those 2 young men, and he received did he get a life sentence or did he get sentenced to death too? He was given a life sentence, wasn't he?
He was given a life sentence.
I,
I
I,
think it was a life sentence
yeah, I think it
because
was a life
around that
sentence.
time they had stopped the death penalty. I think temporarily or something like that.
Yeah, because there was one murder they was saying something about that they charged PeeWee with,
Hmm.
and they gave him the death penalty for it, but they later went back and gave him life.
Yeah, it was
But
like
that was only 1.
consecutive life sentences.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So they did give him the death penalty.
Hmm.
Now, while behind bars, at this point, I guess he figured, well, I'm never getting out of here. And I'm pretty sure they had him on high security just due to, his past. He had a very long criminal record, he ran away and escaped prison several times and avoided
Hmm.
the police.
Hmm.
So he's should be on high security. I don't know how he pulled this off, y'all. But while he's behind bars, he confessed to between 100 and 115 murders while he was on death row. Um, in 1982, yes. So basically, he was also on death row was a man by the name of Rudolph Tyner, who was 23. They were in the same prison. Rudolph was there on a double murder. Basically, Rudolph was in Murrell's Inlet convenience store. He robbed that store and killed the owners, who were Bill and Myrtle Moon. Now, in doing so, he was given a death sentence. He was appealing that death sentence. But the Moons who he killed, their son was not having it. The son's name was Tony Simo.
Hmm.
So Tony was looking for somebody to take Rudolph out. And Rudolph was a black man.
Hmm.
Rudolph was black. Keep that in mind because we said Pee-wee was racist.
Hmm.
So at this point, Pee-wee done been in jail 6 years. So 6 years in, he comes across you know Tony Simo. Tony Simo paid him hired Pee-wee to take out Rudolph. I'm gonna call him Rudy because I'm tired of saying Rudolph. I'm gonna call him Rudy. To take, to take out Rudy Tyner. So he befriended him. Um, he paid him. He was paid $2,000 to do this, and he had tried several times. He tried at least 5 times by poisoning him, but that wasn't getting the job done. So he got Tony Simo to somehow get in some C4, and then he made a makeshift bomb
Hmm.
and killed Rudy in a cell. And
Hmm.
then he said, like, cause while he's in jail, he wrote like a whole memoir confessing all his crimes. Cause I figure, the gig's up. I ain't,
Hmm.
this is the end. I ain't got nothing to lose. Why not? So in the end, he said that the last thing that Rudy heard was him laughing. Like, what a sadistic individual. Like, now Rudy wouldn't know better, cause you done took
No.
out 2 people. But
Yeah.
how? Like, what a crazy sadistic individual you laughing while you taking this man out.
Hmm.
But again, he black, so
Yeah.
Pee-wee ain't
He
care
didn't
with
care.
no sweat off his
Hmm.
back.
Hmm. This in his mind, a win is a win for him. Like
A win is a
a
win,
win is a win, right? So
right?
I'm gonna add a few things to the Tyner case, right? So Rudy actually, I believe, was poisoned twice by Pee Wee before he actually took him out by this whole explosion, right?
Hmm.
So the crazy thing was once he would make the attempt to poison Rudy, he would call Tony, the couple's son who was paying Gaskins to take out Rudy. He would call them. He would call him and give him updates and say, "Man, I poisoned him one time and it just made him sick." Now he's calling them on the jail phone, right? Like I believe on the jail phone, just like giving him updates, like this didn't work. I'm gonna have to try again. Get me some more poison or whatever. He tried poisoning this man twice, and it
Hmm.
just didn't work, right?
Right.
So then after that, he was like, "Well, I'm just have to like basically make an explosive," and that's how he finally took him out. And y'all, like, I think this part, like, so I was watching one of the documentaries, and it got in detail about Rudy and that whole thing. They had pictures of Rudy's body, and I wish they would have gave a disclaimer before they did that.
Now, I
When
did
I say
not
I
see
didn't
that, and I
sleep,
thank God I did not.
oh my god, I was like, y'all gotta give somebody a disclaimer before y'all just upload
Are
these
you
pictures like
kidding
this.
me?
Like they had 2 pictures of that man, and I was like, like I, no, Mm-mm,
So,
no,
and with
no,
that, of
no.
course, they did try prosecute, Pee Wee for Rudy's murder,
Mm-hmm.
and they sentenced him to death. That's significant because this was the first time in the history of South Carolina that a white man was ever sentenced to death for the murder of a black man.
Yes.
Because they,
And the
South
thing,
Carolina, they just don't love us for real.
like, and the thing is, like, the morning he was supposed to be executed, Pee Wee had this grand idea, like, I don't want to, because he was sentenced to the elect. He was scheduled to be executed by electric chair. So he had this grand idea. Oh, one morning, like the morning he was supposed to be executed. Oh, I don't want to be executed by electric chair. So he slit his
Yeah,
wrist.
yeah.
And you know what they did? Took him straight to the nurse. She stitched him up, took him back to the chair, and
And
he
you
was
getting in
out.
that chair, sir. You
Come
getting in
hell
that
or high
chair.
water, you getting in
Period.
this chair.
Because they sick of your shit at this point.
Yeah,
Excuse
and
me.
they were talking about
They're
how much
tired.
pain he must have been in,
Mm-hmm.
because with the electric chair, they tighten your wrist around the chair, and they were talking about that. It was like, but they stitched him up, took him right back to the chair,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's Pee Wee for you, like a disgusting individual.
Did you
Like,
see his last words?
I did not. I think I was so. I probably somebody probably said it in one of the things I was watching and reading, but honestly, I was just so like just
It was
just
so much. This is a lot of information to process because as I was going through it and trying to organize it to make it make sense for y'all, it's so much that we can dive into. Like I really went down a rabbit hole on this, but I tried my best to, like I said, we only want to talk about the ones that they knew for sure of, had evidence of, and he was convicted of. So we know
mm-hmm,
about 15. His last words, y'all, he was executed at the age of 57, September the 6th, 1991 at 1:10 a.m., like Shaw said, via electric chair. They said his last words were, "I'll let my lawyers talk for me. I'm ready to go." Rightfully so. You done took everybody else out. Quite naturally, it should be your turn.
right,
Now, I'm not
right.
an advocate for capital punishment, but that's one case I was like,
That's one case I was like, they handled that appropriately. The only thing that ticked me off was that he had did so much stuff in the
mm-hmm,
beginning, and they gave him short sentences. Like, even when
3 years,
like three,
just
all right,
3 years.
you did that. Shame on you. I'm gonna give you 3 more years.
And this is like for serious crimes. Like how? Like he didn't even get that much time for the rape of that 12-year-old.
Yep,
You know what I mean? Like,
yep,
what is wrong with y'all? Like,
yeah,
throw this man,
yep.
and then it looked like they would look at their history, his history, and see that he has evaded police several times, escaped from prison a couple times,
Mm-hmm,
and put him
mm-hmm,
either in isolation or
mm-hmm.
maximum security. They were
Right,
still having him out in gym pop,
right, right.
like until like towards the end, those last couple of arrests. Then they had him on more security. But I'm trying to figure out how he was even able to get away with that with Rudy Tanner, because you should have been under maximum security.
That's because honestly, I think it's another one of those things that Tyner, they didn't really care. But still, in maximum security, you would think that thing is like on total, like on
It's
lock
total
and key.
lockdown.
Yeah, it's just a total lockdown. But
Like, I
obviously
mean,
not
if it was me, that man would have at least 3 guards on him at all times.
at all
But
times.
again, they kept repeatedly,
Mm-hmm.
like, what's the word I'm looking for? Because of his stature, how small he is, they kept
Underestimating him.
underestimating him. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
They repeatedly kept underestimating him, y'all. And he even, so one of the ones I'm gonna get into a little bit. One of the
Mm-hmm.
murders that he claims to have committed, but authorities don't believe he did. He likes to embellish the facts. They say
Mm-hmm.
with serial killers, they do like to, make them seem like they more prolific than what they really are. So they never
Mm-hmm.
found evidence from all of the things that he said he did. However, there was one that was very high profile because he claims to have taken the life of a where did I go? Oh, he claims to have taken the life of a senator's daughter. So the child was 13. Her name was Margaret Pet Catino. That may supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be Pat. I don't know. That could be a typo. Margaret
Mm-hmm.
Catino. She was 13 years old, and allegedly, Pee Wee was working at her school. I don't know if it was like janitorial services or he was repairing something. He was doing some work at the school. Um, he recognized her, said hey to her, and one of her friends said, who was that? And she was like, just some white trash. So he immediately was livid because one thing you're not gonna do, you ain't gonna talk about Pee Wee. I don't care how old you is. He said like it really took everything in him not to react and respond in that moment. But what he did is he waited. He knew where she stayed. This was the daughter of Senator James Catino Jr. of Sumter. He knew where she stayed. He waited outside, waited on her to come out alone, and then he kidnapped her, supposedly tortured her, and dumped her body in town because he wanted her to be found. Like, but that's what I'm saying. They was like, this don't really match your MO. And they actually ended up charging another guy with this crime because it didn't really match Pee Wee's MO because he
Right.
hid his bodies on his property or discreet places. Like, why would you leave the body just out in town for
Mhm.
everybody to discover it, knowing that you a known menace and people already giving you
Mhm.
the side eye? So
Mhm.
they couldn't make the facts match up to what he was saying in the evidence, but he did try to
Mhm.
claim that one, and they say it was because it was high profile because he wanted to. I mean, you is well known because to have the title as the meanest man in America,
Mhm.
it don't get no more high
Right.
profile than that.
Right. And to me, that nickname isn't even like it doesn't even fit. Like you were a
No,
monster. Like,
like
and they
because for
used
you
to
to
call
call
him a
somebody
monster.
mean, you think it's like how it is in school. Oh, she talking about me.
Mhm.
She mean this, that, and third. Like, no,
Mhm. No, no, sir. You are
no.
shame on you, Pee Wee. Like,
Shame
no.
on you. I know you burning in hell. Like,
Listen, listen. Even so, like when he was executed, they couldn't bury that man, and rightfully so because it was two things gonna happen. Someone, and like I mentioned earlier, somebody tried to steal his body, so eventually they just cremated him, and his daughter had spread his ashes or whatever.
I wouldn't even want his
Um,
ashes if that was my daddy.
no, but she spread them, and she showed like in the documentary, she shows where they spread them. What I was like, okay,
I wouldn't even
all
want
right.
him.
No, I.
And see, that's what I'm saying. I can't find a lot about these wives, or I mean, other than the daughter, Shirley Gaskins. She was his first child, by his, and she was a
Mhm.
love child. He really loved her mom. I can't find a lot about Donald, which is his son, and
Mhm.
a lot of times when things like this happen, the family does everything they can to remove themselves from the situation. So they very much probably went off grid
Mhm.
and because I would have uprooted, went to a whole nother state or a country. Like, I don't want to have
Yeah.
no affiliation with you.
I wouldn't
I
tell
don't
him. I would
care.
change my name.
Yeah,
Like
that
I would
happens a
start a
lot.
whole new life. I would not let anybody know. But she's
Yeah,
not
but
ashamed of it. You know.
she's not. And like, but she did say that her family really, like her mom really struggled because they faced so much scrutiny behind what her father did when everything came out, and rightfully so. But they were innocent in all this. But I'm just
Hmm.
like, how do you, I don't know how you still sit up and like, and probably because I've never been in that situation. My parents would never kill anyone.
Yeah.
But how do you still look at your daddy the same way, like knowing what he did?
I know she also said that like nobody in the family was like that but him. Like
Yeah,
everybody else seemed to like be like Christians, believe in God, and you know, nowhere nothing like
normal.
this. Normal, considered normal.
Normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was the only one, and I would, a lot of people can argue, well, it was his parents and it was his bring upbringing, and that's part of it. That can be part of it, but I don't think it's fair to blame all of this lifespan of a killing spree and trauma and assault that this man put people through. I don't think it's fair to just blame that on his mother. I don't think that's fair,
No,
because
no.
this is some pretty not pretty. This is catastrophic stuff.
It's
Like this is
extreme. Like, these
yes,
are extreme reactions to
yes,
adverse
yes,
childhood, things that
yeah,
went on.
yeah, yeah,
So it may have played a part of it, but it is
yeah.
not the sole reason that he did this. Like a lot of psychiatrists say, he just got bored.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just like, time for somebody else. And he said he was killing people about every 6 weeks.
Mhm.
But it kind of, that's what I'm saying. Like, he also, in the same memoir, later said that, usually about a tenth of every month, he needs to kill again.
Mhm.
So a lot of things he says just wasn't adding up, so they weren't able to charge him or prosecute him on those other crimes. Even if, I mean, and I hate that, like, if those really happened, I hate they weren't able to tie him to it, because I feel like them and their families deserve to see their day in court. But he paid the ultimate price, and it was his life, and ain't nobody
Mhm.
mad about it.
Mhm. Like I don't, sometimes I think the death penalty and the death sentence is like, just give these people life, right?
Hmm.
But this is one thing I'm like, I'm a strong believer in his case. He should have died the way, as traumatic as the
His
families
victims,
and
yeah,
victims, that the type of uh, agony and that they had to endure, the fear they had
yeah.
to endure. I felt like he should have been treated the same way.
He definitely
Um,
should have been. And
yeah,
life, in this case, life was not enough, because as you see, after he's sentenced, he takes somebody else out. So it don't matter where he at. Y'all,
mm-hmm,
it don't matter. If that man wants you gone, you is out of here.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just thinking about like how he tried to say like he's responsible for like 100+ murders, like
Hmm.
from the coast of South Carolina to North Carolina. So for the fact, it's just that haunting thought, like, is he telling the truth, or is he just trying to
Yeah.
like kind of like trying to make him exaggerate his killing spree,
Yeah.
more than he should? Like, is he telling the truth? That is a thought of mine. Like, was
Me
this man telling
too.
the truth? And like,
Because I'm going to
I,
tell you, if he is telling the truth, that is terrifying.
yes,
That is terrifying if that man is actually telling the truth. I pray that he did embellish some of the facts, but if so, then you looking at upwards of 100 unsolved cases
yes,
or
yes,
missing persons, and I mean, with hitchhikers, usually they
mm-hmm,
typically don't have family or any loved ones or anybody to advocate for them or really,
mm-hmm,
push this.
mm-hmm,
So I mean, it kind of just, they didn't believe them. They had 8. They knew for sure they can link them. No, I'm sorry. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
8. They knew for sure they can link them to, because they was found on his property. They
mm-hmm,
were able to confirm 7 more, so we know for sure 15. But
mm-hmm.
and if that is the case, and he really did kill upwards of 100 additional people, then my heart goes out to the families. Like, that
Oh
is so
yeah,
scary, y'all.
mm-hmm,
That's a lot of people.
yep. And
Like,
for the fact that he didn't have like, it didn't take a much of a big reason for him to kill somebody. It was like,
no.
you know what?
He
I
didn't
feel
need a
like they ain't
reason.
solid, so let
He
me go
didn't need
ahead
a
and handle
reason.
that.
It's like, oh,
Right.
you mocking me, you talking about me because I'm short. I
Yeah.
dealt with this all my life. I'm taking you
Right.
out. Oh, you gonna
Right.
pay me? Sure, I'll take him out. Oh, you had
Right.
a baby by a black man? How dare you, as a white woman? I'm taking
Yeah.
you and your child and your unborn child out. Like, he
Right.
ain't need no reason. You took out
Right.
your niece because
Right.
she was drunk
Yep.
and had been, experiencing with alcohol and drugs. You took out your niece and her friend, and the friend was sober. So what was your excuse on that? How
Yeah.
you in your mind process to try to sexually assault your niece
Mm-hmm.
and her friend? There, he like, and there's no mention, but he definitely a pedophile, because
Yeah.
even in his at big old ages of 30s and in his 40s, he was targeting teenagers, y'all, like, for
Yep.
sex.
Yep.
You definitely a pedophile. You, like, they didn't use that word nowhere, but as I'm looking at this, I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Like, why didn't y'all put a name to it? Because that's what it
call a
was.
spade a
Like,
spade. He's a
yeah.
pedo.
Yeah. Like, you hear murderer, assaultant, like, like a burglar. You hear all these terms, but like, I didn't hear
Never
that. It was
saw pedophile nowhere, did you?
no,
Or
nowhere.
heard it nowhere, but that's what it is. He
Mm-mm.
preyed on these young kids. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because if you paid attention to the ages as we called them out, a lot of them was between 13 and 17. Or,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Ugh.
Like, this man reportedly had withdrawals. He said his stomach
Hmm.
would physically hurt
Yeah.
because he couldn't kill or assault, or like he
Mm-hmm.
would physically feel so anxious and be in pain until he was able to kill again or commit another crime. He really
Mm-hmm.
felt like physically sick until he was able to do it again.
Like he was
And
physically gonna explode is how he felt.
right. And y'all, what do y'all expect? This and what blows my mind, like, and we can I'm not even gonna touch on what I really want to say. This man basically told them early in the game, because I was about to curse.
I did. Because it's
Early in the
frustrating. It is
right.
frustrating.
It's
Y'all
frustrating.
could have
He
prevented
told
so much of this, man.
right. He literally rode around with a hearse. A hearse.
Telling y'all that he killing people and he needed more room.
Right, and he needed more room. Had bragged about having his own personal cemetery. Nobody stopped to think, because he's 5'4". No one stopped to think, all right, well, let's, because me being I admit I have fully embraced that I am nosy.
Hmm.
So I would be like, y'all really need to check into that, because that's not something you just walk around admitting like
And
casually.
people don't just
No,
drive hearses
no.
unless you work for the funeral home. You don't just casually drive a hearse.
Who wants to drive a hearse?
Other than dude off P Valley,
But
but he
listen,
worked at the
that
funeral
take
home.
out though.
He worked at the funeral
Take
home.
out though. Yeah. No.
But people don't
No.
just drive hearses just as they regular cars. Like they what kills me is like police, authorities, judges, officials, everybody has so many chances to get this man. They giving him light sentences. People not
Mm-hmm.
taking him for real. They like underestimating him because of his size,
Mm-hmm.
baby.
Yes.
That man is scarier than any man I've ever come into
Mm-hmm.
contact with, have
Mm-hmm.
studied about, other than Napoleon. He up
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
And Hitler, he up there
Yeah.
with them. But
Yeah.
Hitler, he did what he did. We ain't gonna get into that. But
Right.
he's up there with like he's and right out of South Carolina, y'all.
Mm-hmm. I like it's. I guess growing up in South Carolina, I was always bored. There was no action to me.
Me either.
So,
So when you
so
get older, you like, oh, we got serial killers.
what? Like Lord Farquaad, he
This
did like
man, I'm looking at the pictures like this man, he
right,
did
like
this.
he,
Underestimating,
right, but
underestimating.
and I was like, but
Bad
unfortunately,
PeeWee
and trust
Gaskins.
me, we are not bragging. Like, this is not a flex, South Carolina. This is
No,
not a flex. I repeat, this is not a flex to say
I
Pee
don't
Wee
even want
Gas.
to be from the same state no more.
Right,
Like,
right. Like, I'm very proud of where I am. Like, where I'm from or whatever. But like, when I think of South Carolina, I think of the beaches and our historic background, and
hmm
that sort of thing, like the beautiful scenery,
hospitality,
the
home
the southern
cooking, cause
home
can't nobody
cooking,
else cook like we do in the South. Period.
right? Red velvet cake, because red
Yeah,
velvet cake is where we originated, like where it was originated was South Carolina. So things
yeah.
like that. Not Pee Wee Gaskins. No, not
Don't nobody
Susan
want to be
Smith.
known for that. Don't nobody want to be
None of
known
that.
for none of them. None
None
of
of
the
that.
world. No, no.
No,
We want
no.
to
So
make sure you're out doing good things, impacting your
right,
community and
right,
society.
right. If
Don't
you're if
murder.
you're bored, plant a tree.
Don't murder. If
No.
you're bored, go for a walk. I just took one right before we recorded. It's
Yes.
actually refreshing, gets you in the
Yes.
right state of mind. Don't
Yes.
murder. Don't
Yes.
murder. People
Don't
are
murder.
going to say things to you that you don't like. People are going to call you out of their name. They did the same thing to Jesus. Did he kill
Yes.
anybody? No. No. They killed him. Okay.
Right.
So, y'all, just, and I know it's hard doing. Okay.
Yes.
Trust me. Trust me. Because when people
Mhm.
like Medea say, when people get you, get you, get you, I'm going to get them, get them, get them. Okay. But
Right.
a lot of times it's just not even worth your effort or energy, y'all.
Right.
Just
Right.
move on with grace because trust me, God is gonna spin the block
Every
and
time.
every time, and anything
Every time.
he can do is far worse than anything you could ever imagine.
Yes. So
No
as we
murder.
wrap it up,
Murder bad. Murder bad.
so we have, as we, I think my final thoughts wrapping this up is don't
Yeah.
bully. Don't bully.
Treat
Don't
people with
mistreat your kids.
kindness. Like,
Be kind.
why is that so hard? Just treat people with kindness.
Yes. Don't kill nobody.
Don't kill nobody.
Like,
And here we gonna be back next week, probably talking about another murder. Stop it.
yes.
Go ahead, Shy.
Nah, go ahead, Rap. Preach, Rap. Take your time,
Like,
Pastor.
just stop, y'all. Stop.
But
God.
the God honest truth, though, like, people are insane. Like, uh, but y'all, once again, one of these crazy people we're talking about for the week, we are coming back. I think the next one it's not as heavy, but still crazy stuff. But like we promised to incorporate lighter things. Like we plan on
Yeah.
covering some current event stuff. Like
Yes. We
because
excited about that, y'all. We trying to wait for all
listen,
the details to roll out.
yes, I.e. Miss Carly, because I heard you wrote that letter, girl, and said you wasn't telling me
Girl.
who's girl.
Her
Like,
and Mr. Howerman, the alleged Long Island serial killer. Yeah, boo. They just started digging up his property, I think yesterday. So I
oh,
gotta get the update on that because I want to see if they found some bodies over there, you know.
right. I
Hmm.
gotta look him up.
Yeah.
But okay, but we're gonna get into some current event stuff. It's just we want to wait till all the details because honestly, we don't want to have to come back and keep providing our updates or whatever. Because it's not that it's an issue. It's just we prefer to do a one and done and be gone to the next or
Yeah,
whatever.
instead of
But
part two and then something else comes out and we gotta come back with a part three. Like that
hmm
can be a lot to keep up with, even for y'all. So we trying to
yeah,
make this as convenient and seamless as possible because sometimes these episodes can get a bit lengthy like this one,
yeah,
but it's good though. We
yeah,
unpack a lot of things, a lot of
hmm
things. Stay tuned.
yeah, yes. So y'all, that ends our podcast our episode for tonight. Y'all, please come back next week, next Thursday, with another case. Please feel free to email us cases that you want to cover. Anything. If you want to say, hey y'all, you're doing a great job, or we really enjoyed it. Any kind of feedback, we really appreciate it. So that is the end of our episode for this week. Y'all take care. Toy, you got anything?
Nope, just come back same time next week. Thank you for rocking with us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Don't forget to moisturize the back of your thighs. It's summertime. I want
Shy.
to add that.
Shy man.
I was at the beach this weekend
Shy.
and I was like, maybe I should make sure you lotion the
Shy.
back of your thighs. Aquaphor is excellent for that. Um,
Also, moisturize your heels.
yes, scrub them.
Exfoliate. Aquaphor works great for that as well.
Yes. Now I admit I'm just gonna put myself on blast. Aquaphor is the only thing that can hit these heels the way they're supposed to be hit.
Me too. Me too. And that's for me personally. We is way off topic, but for me personally, that's because I walk barefoot. Like like people mistake it. I'm a country girl. People be saying I'm bougie, this, and that, but I'm a country girl. I
Yeah.
walk everywhere barefoot. I go outside barefoot everywhere I go. As soon as I sit down, my shoes is coming off. I don't like nothing on my feet. So because of that, I have to continuously use Aquaphor because I don't like shoes. I don't even like socks. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just buy them
Yeah.
because I know I have to wear them with tennis shoes and closed toe shoes and stuff. Like other than that, you'll never see me wearing. Like I'm very much Nike slide type of person if you see me out in public. And if you do, y'all like don't be weird though. But you can speak, you know. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
how you doing? But don't be
Hey,
weird.
girl.
Don't be weird. Cause then I will have to shut that down. But but thank y'all. Like
Mm-hmm.
we got way off topic.
We did. But y'all, join us back for tomorrow. Always, always, always love, peace, and blessings to everyone. God bless y'all. Have a wonderful week, and y'all take care. Much love. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.